some volume. We got some volume now. We got the mics working. So we are about to start. You guys can continue to finish up whatever it is you're in the middle of. Don't let me interrupt. But we are going to start the third panel, and we will be talking about entrepreneurship. So if you are an entrepreneur or are looking to involve yourself in something that is entrepreneurial, this will be helpful for you, okay? So we'll be starting in just a little bit. While I have you, so while we are waiting to begin, I would like to let you know that this might be a very important panel for you, especially if you are looking to be an entrepreneur. We have several, right? All of the panelists, multimillionaires, okay? So they definitely have some gems that they can drop. You have some things that you can learn. So if you haven't taken any notes, this may be a perfect time to take some. And if you have already been taking notes, which I've been seeing some of you guys, you will have some things to add to that list, okay? While I have everybody waiting, let me have one person tell me what is the most helpful piece of information that they've received tonight, or today, rather. Do I have anybody who's willing to share? Sure. I'll take both of you guys. I'll take you first because I saw your hand first.
Okay, the most helpful information that I've got is like to basically tune into who I am, to my authentic self when it comes to
Yes, ma'am.
Don't try to be like anyone else, regardless of how other people. Oh, thank you. Regardless of how other people may look or go viral on Instagram, TikTok, you have to hone on to what you are and
Absolutely.
who you are, and you know, because we all have our special sauce and seasonings going on.
Absolutely.
We just got to tap into that. So that has been very important because sometimes when you are on social media, it can become like very intimidating. Imposter syndrome can tap in and it just discourage you a lot.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And what about
You're
you?
welcome.
Hi, I'm Mackenzie.
Hi, Mackenzie.
Hey. I would say just to do it. I think one of the ladies just said it up there. Just go for it. Don't hesitate. Don't hinder yourself because of whatever thoughts you have in the back of your head. Just go for it. At the end of the day, the world is your oyster. Nothing is oversaturated. There's space for you, so just do it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that that's something that everyone should know. Does anybody else want to share? Yeah, okay, cool. So we got 2 for oversaturation and not being worried about oversaturation. That's a big one. So we're going to go ahead and start our next panel. So tune in. If you are at the bar, I'm sure you guys will still be able to listen, but I'm going to begin calling in our panelists for this panel for entrepreneurship. So the first person I'm going to have is Miss Krystal Carter. She's an entrepreneur and community builder. I hope this one is on, and it is. Lucky me. So, next person I'm going to have is Miss Lonye Ford. She's the CEO of Arlo Solutions. And last but certainly not least, I'll have Miss April Johnson, Esquire, CEO of Happied. And so with that, we're going to have a conversation. Are you guys ready? Perfect, perfect, perfect. So, I have questions, and we were chit-chatting in the back, so you guys know I have lots of questions. But I can't wait to get your expertise out there into the room so that these women here can kind of tap into your heads for a little bit and learn what you guys already have learned, okay? So I will also do this randomly. So if you guys want to jump out and answer questions, sure. Or I'll probably call on you if I see that glimmer in your eye and I know you have an answer for me, okay? Perfect. What was the most pivotal moment that pushed you to pursue entrepreneurship? And how did you know it was the right time to take that leap? Who wants to go first? Come on, Krystal.
Okay, so hi everyone. How are you guys doing? Shout out to y'all for staying tuned in this moment. But my pivotal moment, I always like to tell the story because it wasn't what I think a lot of people thought it was. Like, I did not choose entrepreneurship. Like,
it chose you.
Yes, it definitely chose me. I used to remember like going into jobs, like, so little backstory, I have my master's degree in public administration, and then I have my bachelor's degree in human services and social work. But I used to get in trouble at work, like all the time. Like I was the girl with the performance reviews. I was always trying to fix something that they didn't want to fix. Y'all know how the government is. It's like, well, this is how we do things. And I'm always like, well, we should be doing something else. Like, you know? And so I was always in trouble. And then I just remember like I went from job to job to job, and then COVID happened. And when COVID happened, my job was pretty much like, well, we're only gonna keep one person in the HR department, and we're gonna let go of everybody else in this department. So I was just like, okay, so what does that mean for me? And at the time, guys, like I literally had just bought a house. And so I'm like,
wow.
I'm like, God didn't let me buy a house only not to have a job a month later.
You ain't bring me this far.
Like literally
Okay.
a month later. But that was my situation. So I literally got laid off from my job. I had to do unemployment. And so in that moment, I had to use what was in my hands. And so I had already created my community. And at the time, it just wasn't monetized. It was informal. It was just my passion project. So I just kind of got pushed into it. I had to figure out how to make the things that I already had in my hands work.
Absolutely.
Like, and use my gifts. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. How do you feel, Lonye?
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. What was the pivotal moment that pushed you to pursue entrepreneurship, and how did you know it was the right time to take that leap?
I think from a very early on, I knew I was an entrepreneur, but I didn't have the vernacular to say it.
I totally get that.
I think that entrepreneurship is two things. It's a mix of talent. People don't look at making money as a talent. To make money, that's
You gotta
a
have
talent.
that talent.
Just like for athletes, that's a talent. A singer is a talent, but people are delusional thinking that being able to make money is not a talent. And so from a talent perspective, some of that is innate in you, right? Just like an athlete, you know, the GOAT, which is Michael Jordan when I say GOAT. But the GOAT, right?
Right.
He naturally is gonna be fast, agile, have a competitive, mind frame,
Absolutely.
right? Same thing with an entrepreneur. Naturally, you are solution finders. Naturally you are resilient. Naturally you got this, I'm going to win. That's natural. And everybody doesn't have that. But that's only one piece of the equation. The other part is going to be skill development. So after you have that natural piece, now what? You got to get in the gym.
Absolutely.
You got to get a coach. Same thing from an entrepreneur perspective. You have to develop your skill. You have to spend time developing your skill.
Absolutely.
So that part of it, I think, and let me answer the second part of your question.
Yeah.
Is
Absolutely.
when did I know when it was time to pivot and go full time? I quit and said, okay, I'm gonna pursue this thing full time because I was gonna be rich and famous and have all these clients within a year. And I took my butt back to work. So I had to go back to work, but when I went back to work, I went back with a different mind frame. My business is government contract and my background is cyber. So I own a government contracting company. So when I went back and worked in the Pentagon, I'm looking differently. I'm looking in an entrepreneurship type of eyes. Let me see how they're doing business. Let me see how they get clients. Let me see how they do kickoff briefs. So that's what I started doing. And then I transitioned to saying, you got to be able to provide value, right? Because you got to be able to influence. That's
you got to fix the problem.
Yes, and so you got to say, so I was able to go to them and say, hey, I work on a contract, now I want to build myself out on the same contract. And as an entrepreneur, I saw, oh, y'all have other issues. Something else here isn't filled. This position's been open for 30 days. Then guess what? I went and found a person, and then I got that person placed. So you just have to, but if you got to work, y'all got to work and use your time wisely.
Absolutely.
Work 9 to 5, and what you doing from 6 to midnight. That's how it started.
Yep, and we talked about that on the last panel. That's definitely the truth. Got to make that time. Got to find that time. Thanks, Lonye. How do you feel, April?
Yeah, so hello, everyone. My journey into entrepreneurship was a little bit different because I always knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Deep down inside you already
Deep
knew.
down. So my mom was a lawyer also, but she was a solo practitioner.
Okay.
And she was a hustler.
Got
So
it.
we grew up in Inglewood, California. She had
Callie.
yes, Inglewood. I don't know if anyone here is Inglewood, but
West
so
Side.
we had, she had her law practice, but we also she had a beauty salon, and then she also had a boutique, all in Inglewood, right next to where Issa Rae's cafe is right now.
Oh, sweet.
But so growing up, that was all I knew. So she taught me that if you have an idea for something and you think that you're the person that is able to execute it, you go for it.
Yeah.
But what's most important, I think, about that is the execution. And Lonye, I think you were talking about this a little bit, like making money, right?
Yeah.
Because people can have ideas, and ideas are great.
Absolutely.
But how you execute on it is what's going to be the most important for if you're going to make money. And what I think a lot of people don't realize about entrepreneurship is that every dollar you have is a dollar that you made happen.
Absolutely.
So if you're not working your ass off, if you're not getting sales, to your point, Lonye, you have to be able to sell. If you're not getting sales, nothing
can't support
happens.
yourself.
Absolutely.
Nothing happens. And so, similar to Lonye, I quit my job in 2018 to start my company, and thought that I was like ready. I was a lawyer, practicing commercial real estate finance, doing well. But I was like, I have this idea for this thing, and I started it while I was still working at the firm. Thought I was going to make money immediately, and I did not.
That seems to be the ongoing case, because I know I've quit my job multiple times and still was like, okay, no, we're going to go back to the drum board, no worries.
Yeah, it's hard, because even if you save money, right, and you think like, okay, I have enough to get me through a year, 2 years, you have to be ready to understand that maybe it doesn't take off as soon as you think that it will, right? So I started my company, quit my job, started to go back part-time, practicing law. COVID hit. So there was real estate kind of dried up at the time.
Right.
So fortunately at that time, the company took off during COVID. But for me, in terms of like when I knew, I think that life is short, right? And you only have one. And so if you really have that passion deep inside and you say, I have this thing and I want to go for it, you owe it to yourself to go for it, because this is it. This is not a test run. This is your life. You don't want to look back when you're 80 and say, I wish, I think I could have. You want to do it smartly, right? You want to research, you want to get the coach, you want to do all of that.
It's better to live with mistakes than regret. I tell you that.
But
100%.
if you're ready and you think you're the person to do it, you owe it to yourself to do it.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to piggyback off what she said, because although I said that, I was forced into it, I think as an entrepreneur, you kind of have a burn, like early on. And if you go back and look over the trajectory of your life and what you've done, you can kind of see footprints of entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Right? And so like funny stories, like I was in a local pageant and I was Miss Entrepreneur when I was 17.
Yeah.
And at the time, I didn't know what that meant. I just knew I was going to every business getting ads to support me in this pageant. Where it's like, you making CDs. I was selling CDs out of my trunk, mixed CDs back in the day, LimeWire. I was the LimeWire girl. Yeah. But when you go back and you look at your life, you can kind of see those footprints of like moments of like, oh, these are passion projects, but I found ways to make money, and you can kind of see that burn for entrepreneurship.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And I do have a lot of questions here, but I'm going to focus in on a few that I think are very beneficial for the audience that we have here. And so I'm going to mix it up a little bit, and I'm going to ask, what advice would you give to other Black women who want to build businesses in industries where they're often underrepresented? I feel like we have a panel that can give some insight on that. Does anybody want to take that question first?
I'll start. So I started a tech company, and I am not technical. I'm a lawyer. I do not know how to code. I'm learning now. With AI, you can teach yourself a lot on how to code, and I think people should learn. But I think I'll speak specifically to anyone here who's interested in building a tech company. The most important thing is surrounding yourself with people that are highly, highly technical and can help you build the thing that you actually want to build. I thought that I could just find someone and they would build it. I had the idea.
Absolutely.
And it does not work that way.
Yeah.
If you want to start a technical company, and I think this goes the same for any company, if you're not familiar with that space and you have this idea, surround yourself with it, immerse yourself in it. The best time to do it is when you're early on, because people want to help. It's like you're a student, right? You all remember like when you were a student, you go and you're the intern and you're asking for help and everyone wants to help you. The same thing. You're not a competitor yet, right? You're early on. You just want to learn. But surround yourself with folks that like know what they're doing. And if you're interested in tech, talk to me, because I know a lot of people in tech now. But that's my biggest thing, is just find people that really know that space, but never feel like you can't do it. Like
Absolutely.
You can't, you're just as good as everyone else there.
No imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
No way. Who wants to take it next? You, Lonye?
I would say, I guess the same advice that I would give to any, business. And everybody know entrepreneurship is difficult, right? I heard someone speaking when they were saying one thing that they learned here was the phrase I like that Nike says is just do it. Starting sometimes is the most difficult. It's the most difficult part of this is getting started, right? You gotta get started, right? And you will learn along the way. Don't psych yourself out to say, you know what, I can't start this business because I don't know how I'm gonna get funding. I don't know how I'm gonna do this. Those things are gonna happen. So, and I would be remiss to say, my company, I have a co-founder. My company is Arlo. So my co-founder is Arlene and I'm Lonye. And when we started, we didn't have anything. We had $0.
That's about the sound of it. That's how it goes.
And and so what we had to put into this was sweat equity. Okay, we don't have any money. We're gonna split this thing up. Girl, you back office, I'm front office. I gotta go learn how to go get work. I gotta go learn how to write proposals.
There you go.
You know, and I have to learn. So I had to learn that part. And I had to learn contracting. Arlene, you go learn accounting. You go learn marketing. You go do these things. And we did that for our company. And we did
sweat
ourselves.
equity is important. I'm glad that you said that,
Yes.
Lonye, because so many of us are wondering on build the LLC and the website. But what about the skills you're going to need to truly be that entrepreneur? Because when we talked about branding earlier, it is very important to brand. But it's very important to have the skills and the sweat equity, right, to push the brand that we build, right? So that's really important. How do you feel, Krystal?
I think for me, like, sweat equity is definitely big.
Skin in the game.
Skin in the game. I think, like, in my recent endeavor I own a smoothie and juice bar in DuPont Circle. And I'm fortunate enough to do so with my best friend. And so, like, learning to be okay with saying, like, oh, I don't know that, but she does. But later, like, learning on my own. So
that's important. Delegating too.
Yeah, delegating, but leaning into my skill set. And I think sometimes you feel like you got to know all the things to be able to have the pieces of the puzzle put together. But you can also lean on other people. You got YouTube University. You get mentors, like she said. But most of it, like, you learn as you go. Like,
as you go.
You literally learn as you go. Like,
you still learning.
Yeah, you still learn. And even the part of being, like, underrepresented, Black women specifically, we make up 5% of women who franchise. And so, like, going into an industry that's literally male-dominated, white male-dominated, it was hard. And because you go in, you look for funding opportunities. If you don't know anything about funding, then you're like, okay, dang, now I got to sell my soul. I got to put a lien on my house. Like, I got to do all of these things in order to get the business.
You learn.
But you learn. Like, and so, like, you have to learn later. Oh, there's angel investors. There's grant programs. There's things that I qualify for, but it doesn't mean that you can't do it now. So me personally, like, I ain't saying do this, but I had great credit. So I was like, okay, we can't get the equipment on the loan. I got a $50,000 credit card. We just gonna have to make it work. Later, I learned business credit. But I didn't allow the things that I didn't know to stop me.
Exactly.
Yeah, like, I was like, this is what we're doing. I wanna do that. I don't know how I'm gonna get there, but God said I'm doing it. So we're just gonna put the pieces of the puzzle together along the way. So like you were saying, like, you just have to start. Like, if that's what you want to do, you have to start, and then once you start, be consistent. Because, you know, people reward consistency, too. So the people
they do, and they see you. They see you working.
Yeah, the people you think might not want to help you, like, the more consistent you are, the more people buy into it. Like, oh, she's serious.
Absolutely.
I'll put some money towards that. Like, you know.
I think that's definitely important to speak on, though. I think that sometimes you'll have moments where you're like, well, I don't know what to do. And the best way for me to liken that is to, you know, your mom didn't know what to do, or your caregiver didn't know what to do when she had her first kid, right? Because no one comes with instructions, but she learned as she went about the journey, right? So your business or your entrepreneurial journey is your baby. You're going to raise this thing. You're going to shape it. You're going to put it out into the world. You're going to watch it grow, as in scaling. You're going to do all of these things. And you learn as you go. And don't be, you know, too put off by the mistakes. How do you feel, Lonye?
Yeah, I mean, I want to piggyback off a couple of things you said. Like, even for, you know, cyber, especially government contracting cyber, first of all, it's difficult.
It's very difficult.
But don't let, you know, I didn't know the stats. Only 0.5% of government contracting go to Black women. 0.5. That's not even 1%. Yeah. But actually, I'm happy I didn't know that.
Because
it wasn't even,
had you
it
known,
wasn't in my psyche.
Right, you didn't
I
box
went in there
yourself.
with a different level of like, I never even thought about it. When I found out, I said, dang. Because
Really?
I'm in Chocolate City. I see all these chocolate people doing things, but the reality is 0.5% goes to black women. So one, you can't let the stats kind of scare you.
Yeah.
Right?
I think
so
that's
it's not to say that it's not true stats. It just means that there's going to be barriers to entry.
Yeah.
And when we got our first, when we got our first contract, I think our first contract, the sole sourcing, was $4 million, our first one. And you still have to pay payroll.
Yes.
So we was like, everybody told us, when you get this contract, you can go to the bank and you could get a bank this contract, and the bank is gonna say, hey, there you go, you can pay your payroll. No, the bank want 2 years of taxes. I just told y'all I was broke 2 years ago. I don't have that.
Right.
So, but again, we didn't let that stop us from going after the contract.
Right.
We went and found a way. We end up doing, you can borrow against your invoices. Right? And so they do that in government contracting because you have to float your money sometimes for 60 days. And so if you have very high payroll, you're floating a lot, right? That type of thing scares people to even start. Funding is a very, very serious barrier to entry for our community.
It is. And Lonye, you hit on a really good point that I want to make sure that every lady in the room knows is it's going to be scary, but that's okay. Right? And look at the wealth of information that you learned. You didn't know any of this stuff before you started. Sometimes you got to skin your knees and learn how to walk. And I know that sounds cliche, but that's just what it is, right? So I think that that's really important. I'm gonna ask a piggyback question or a follow-up question that is very relevant to what we just talked about. What strategies do you use to maintain financial stability while scaling your business? Who would like to start?
Systems. I feel like early on, like if you got a firm foundation, y'all, like if you're not a systems person, become one. Like if you could be organized, do that from day one, because if you build a strong foundation, it's going to be so much easier for you to scale because it's like copy paste, right?
Absolutely.
So now I have these systems in place and I'm like, oh, I can duplicate here and I can duplicate there because I know what it takes to build that elsewhere or to go to the next level. But if you're just like a visionary, I am innately a visionary, and everything lives in your head, you can't tell anybody else how to run that. You can't tell anybody else how to do that.
And then you can't delegate.
Because it doesn't live anywhere. So that's my advice, like literally create systems.
I think that's amazing advice. How do you feel, Lonye?
Definitely systems. I would double down on that. And I think it goes back to what we talked about when it comes to sweat equity. So you have to put a plan in play, right, based off your revenue and your income. So how you will scale is, okay, girl, you're going to have to do this. I'm going to have to do this. Once we make this amount of money, then we're going to bring in this.
I love the monetary goals.
Okay, then once you bring this amount of money, because the balance of scaling is I need to move fast so I don't miss the opportunity, but I need my cash flow in order to manage. So it's a tough balance that you're going to have from the beginning to the end. You have to be able to balance that. And so one of the things soon, even if you got to outsource, you got to get an accountant. You need somebody to run your books, to look at your books. You got to know your numbers. You got to look at your numbers. You have to look at your numbers. You have to look at your numbers.
And I love that
Let's
she's
drill
saying
this
that.
in.
No, I love that she's saying it over and over.
For free. You'll look back 2 months and be like, I can't believe. Not only did I work for free, I paid them to do the work. So you gotta constantly look at your numbers, and then from a scaling perspective, you choose what's most important. But I would say that one of the most important people that you start with is somebody that's gonna help you manage your books.
Yes.
I think that that's perfect advice. How do you feel, April?
I agree. If I could add on to that, I would just also suggest, like, don't be afraid to get a side hustle. I know some people think, well, I'm doing this thing, so like I have to only do this thing. I literally sustained myself through side hustle income for about at least 2 to 3 years. And if I didn't have that, I wouldn't have made it and wouldn't have been able to get back on track. I think also, like, don't be afraid to have a 9 to 5 while you do your business, right? While you're starting your business, like, do that. Don't think that you have to make that jump to be a full-time founder immediately. Set yourself up on track. I bought my house before I quit my job because I knew that it was going to be hard to buy a house as a full-time entrepreneur. Best decision I ever made, right? Have a home base, not worried about anything about like where I'm going to go or things like that. But just, I think the systems are super, super important, and just always having that like hustle mindset, because there will be times where you're like, I don't know if I'm going to make payroll. I don't know how I'm going to pay myself. I don't know how I'm going to pay my employees. I don't know what I'm going to do. We've had times where we didn't take a salary. We had times where we cut our salary in half. We've had to do layoffs, and we've hired people back, right? And so it's really just, I think, also like that mental aptitude of like knowing that
mental aptitude
these things may happen.
Is another one.
Yeah, being prepared.
Sweat equity, mental aptituute. I think that those are two things that we should definitely jot down and make sure we keep them close, because I'm telling you, the twists and turns. And that brings me to another question.
No. Before you go to the next question, I just want to add one more
No,
part.
jump in.
As somebody who has scaled and failed, and I will say that like literally scaled and failed, I will also add like know your market.
Yeah.
I think sometimes like when you go to like for what I did in different cities, just because it worked in one city doesn't mean it's gonna work in another. So you kind of gotta know the lay of the land. Yeah, the lay of the land, the demographic and everything. Like, cause you like, oh, I'm killing it here, so I'm gonna take this there and it's gonna be great. And then you get there and it's crickets. Like, you know, and cause you already don't have like a footprint there, or you just don't know the lay of the land. Like what works here doesn't work there. So just making sure, like you said, know your numbers, know your stats, and then know the market.
Absolutely.
Sure.
And then I'm gonna piggyback on mental toughness. The mental toughness. I mean, y'all, this is not
for the
easy.
weak. No,
this is not for the weak. You have to have a mind frame that I am a storm chaser. I'm going into the storm because I know the rainbow is on the other end.
You gotta know.
That's a mind frame. Nobody can teach you that. That's innate. So you have to feel like your mental toughness, because it's tough.
It is.
Like, it's tough. So that has to be something. No one's going to come and say, hey, girl, you did a good job. You should keep doing oh, girl, how you doing? Nobody's checking on you like that. It have to be something internal to you that's like, okay, this happened. Let me move on.
Right.
It ain't like MJ stopped because he lost one game. That's what we look at. We lost one game, but you still made it to the championship. So that's how you have to think. You're going to lose and you're going to learn, but you're gonna make it to the championship.
And you know what? That's so funny, because I mentioned something earlier at the top of the conference, and I said that it's not a matter of what. We know what's going to come, right? Yeah. It's just a matter of when, right? Yeah. So you have to know that no matter what it is, if you feel strongly about it and you are convicted enough to be a storm chaser, like Lonye said, then you know that the losses are just the redirection to the win. You can't lose, right? Even when you lose, you're not losing, because it's still going to get you to the win. So I think that's really important.
And you learn something along the way.
And you learn something. Because, I
didn't lose. I was learning.
Exactly. You skin those knees. That's true. So that's so funny, because my next question was, how do you stay resilient when faced with setbacks? Especially when it feels like the odds are stacked against you. And even though we touched on it, I would love if you guys went a little bit more in depth for the crowd.
For me, it's like I lean on my faith for sure. I lean on my faith, I lean on my community, but then also I lean on receipts. Like sometimes you just kind of got to go back and look like, oh, I did that before, you know? Like
a gratitude list or that list of things that you do.
Like you always I'm a journaler. Anybody else a journaler in here? Okay. So I'm a journaler, and I like to if you follow me on Instagram, you will see I'm a walking manifestation, and I say it all the time.
I love it.
I literally write down things, and it happens. And then when it happens, I be having the stories to go back on Instagram and be like, y'all remember when I told y'all this? Now look over here. It might be 7 years later, but it happened.
Absolutely.
And so sometimes when you're in that storm, I just got to go back and see God's footprint over my life. I got to go back and look at the receipts. What are you crying about right now? Because the days be hard. When you gotta make payroll, everybody else get paid and you don't get paid. You just be sitting here okay, rent $9,000. What's next? Yeah. And so you gotta go back and look at it I've done it before. I can do it again. It's just a season. You know. Yeah.
But you know what? That goes back to what Lonye was mentioning earlier. That hustle mindset, the storm chaser mindset. You know what I mean? Oh, I lost it, I could get it back. Yeah. That's the spirit. I think that's the spirit.
And I think that, that goes back to that innate part too. And sometimes it go back to where you from and the situations and what you had to get yourself out of.
Right.
So it's I'm built for this.
Right.
I'm built for this.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this. So that's how I talk to myself.
Yeah.
I might pray and listen to some trap music.
Yeah.
That's what's
Because I'm sometimes you gotta get busy.
But
absolutely.
Exactly.
No,
I gotta
absolutely.
feel sometimes I feel like this culture are raising weak people. Mm-hmm. Entrepreneurs cannot be weak people. People that go into a job 9 to 5, they can have some work-life balance.
But your entrepreneurs,
no. Especially when you're building.
Absolutely.
It'll be harmony. You got to make it work. But when you're building, don't get into that mind frame. Do what you got to do. Because look at it long term. Yeah, I'm doing this for 4 years, but now guess what? I'm breaking generational curses.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm doing this for 5 years. I'm not paying myself, but guess what? My kids gonna be good off of what I do. So don't look at the short term, and don't think of, in this space that I just want to add, in this space, it's a lot going on politically, and I'm actually very political person. I've been in the government all my life. I've been from the Air Force to this, Pentagon, so it's my space. But entrepreneurs are not activists. Entrepreneurs are not activists. You can be activated. But for our people to move ahead, everybody got to know what their lane is. Somebody got to go activist and go out there and do all the things. Then they got to get somebody elected. Then those elected people have to change some laws. And then they open up and change some things in SBA and some things that's going to happen to, that you need in order to move forward as a small business. And then you got to be ready to walk through the door.
Right.
But if you over there activating and not doing what was called for you to do, you going to miss that.
Yeah.
So when you're thinking about this, what's going to change us is economic empowerment, period. And y'all are a part of the economic empowerment.
Absolutely.
Y'all is serious.
Absolutely.
And then also, y'all got to look into AI. This is a very even playing field for everyone. So whatever your niche is, go figure out how do you integrate AI into that. Right now, there is no expert. There's no expert.
Nope.
You're going to look up 5 years from now and I'm the expert.
That's true, because I actually just completed an AI governance cohort. There are no experts. We are the experts. AI is not even an expert platform.
Absolutely.
So we are training it with our data, and then it is needing to be governed and utilized by us. So how do you feel, April?
So I just want to first say, yes, AI, you do need to focus on AI. I think in terms, though, of just kind of that, resilience, maintaining it, one, therapy has been super, super, super important.
I second that.
Super important. I think also, though, is realizing that you are not your business. So I've had to tell myself this multiple times where we were on the brink of failure. If your business fails, it's okay. White people, their business fail all the time. They don't care. They go bankrupt. They go start another business.
They start another one.
They raise more money, but we're so caught up, our identity is often very caught up in our business that we think, wow, if I fail, I'm a failure. If your business fails, you are not a failure.
Yeah.
Right, so that's number one. And my husband is here somewhere, but he's had to get me through that multiple times. Even, recently where we're going through other pivots all the time. And I think that just remembering that, again, it's okay to have a job. It's okay to go back to a job. I feel piggybacking off of what Lonye said about this political climate, one of the best things that you can do for yourself is take care of your economic health right now.
Yes.
If you have a job, keep it. Maybe right now is not the time to quit it and go full time into entrepreneurship. Keep your job. Do your side hustle, start making that money, right? But make sure that you're taking care of yourself, because we have to take care of each other. If you see other Black people, specifically Black women that need help, help them, right? Someone needs groceries, get them some groceries. Because I think that's truly what we all need right now.
That's absolutely important. I think that just the spirit of sharing is really important. That you said, April, sharing what you have to share. Obviously, don't go into deficit, right? But share if you do have a surplus, because it's meaningful to that person. And another thing you said about not being your business, right? Especially in Black spaces, I just want to share this because I feel like we all can kind of resonate with this. We have a knack for internalizing imperfection. And I think that it's important that when you are embarking on entrepreneurship, you understand that I don't need to be perfect for this thing to solve its problem that it's intended to solve, for my business to be still worthy. It doesn't need to be perfect, right? And so you not being your business and you understanding that, just from what you said, it reminded me that when you are doing business, if it does fail, if it doesn't go well, it's not a reflection of how good or not good you are. It's a reflection of just where it is. And so to not internalize the ups and downs of that journey. And I think that that's really important.
I think there's space there for us to just give ourselves grace, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Learning to give it to others, but to really give it to ourselves, because we do internalize it a lot. It's like for me specifically, even in leadership, once you start building teams, if the team ain't doing what you know they're supposed to do, you like, this is a reflection of me.
Yeah,
like I'm
it's
a horrible.
my fault. Maybe
I'm a horrible leader. Like, how can I be a better leader? Because if they're not getting it right, it's because I'm missing the mark. And sometimes that's just not the case.
Yeah.
Like, it's not the case. Like, you can read all of these books, you can go to all of these seminars, but sometimes you do have to do the work for yourself, and then some stuff is just accountability for other people.
Absolutely.
So, like, give yourself grace, give them grace, but sometimes hold people accountable.
Absolutely.
Like, because I'm not gonna own that was you.
Yeah.
And so it's not.
And that's important too, because a lot of us, especially Black women, are taught to carry everybody else's burden.
Yeah.
So in business, it's important to separate that too.
To a certain, but you gotta,
to a certain degree,
extent, because I think, and I always say that when you hear it with panels, all of us are successful. So you're getting a list of what everybody feels, and you take what works for you.
What works for you.
So if your teams are not successful, it's your fault.
Yeah.
She said,
Want to be real clear, it's your fault. And even if it's not your fault, you're the person that's accountable for it. Because one, you either didn't hire the right person, or you didn't give that person the right training, or you didn't let go of the wrong person soon enough.
Right.
And that is all responsibility for you. In your business, you are responsible for everything.
Mm-hmm. And that's this not me combating what she's saying, y'all. Because
go ahead.
No. Because I think what she said is absolutely true, and I think you got to also know, like, so when I'm speaking about retail, I feel like that's true. When I'm speaking about like my passion projects, like passion businesses that I have to build, like communities, I feel like it goes to other people too. But I will say it made me look like, because that's when I created the systems. That's how I had to learn duplication, because it was on me. And so when it does fail, it's not like, oh, well, she did that in that department. They don't know that. They just know you as the brand in the face. So it does fall on you. Yeah. So no, she's absolutely correct.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And so I'm going to ask one more question. I did have some personalized questions, but I think that we are really bringing home some good information for the audience. And I just have one last question for you. How do you define success as a Black woman entrepreneur, and how has that definition evolved over time? If you could tell me maybe one word, right? That kind of like one word. I'm gonna make it challenging. All of y'all looking at me crazy.
Girl.
You can expand in a second. But what's the word that says this is success? When you hear that word, you say, well, that was when, or that's how I felt when. Give me an example. You want me to give you an example?
I got one.
Okay, you got one?
I got my one word.
Come on, Krystal.
Impact.
Impact.
That is how I define
love it.
Success.
What about you, Lonye?
First of all, I can't do nothing in one word.
That's hard.
So I'm thinking real hard to follow the directions.
Okay, 2.
A sentence. You should let us have a sentence.
It's hardcore, girl. Let me think. I would say ownership and freedom.
I love that.
Oh, that's a good too.
I would say legacy.
Legacy. So you hear these words, and though they said that they didn't have the ability to give you the answer, you see they still found it, right? Sometimes you just gotta make it enough. So we're gonna do some question and answers from the audience. And I see my girl over there has a question. And like we've done on the previous panels, if you have a question, just raise your hand and I'll get a mic over to you, okay? So the mic is coming for you right now.
Up front and one in second row. That's and why I put this all together.
Right.
Yes.
We go way back from club days.
So question for the ladies, where do you guys go, or even who do you go to when you need to draw inspiration? I know, April, you talked about your mom being an entrepreneur. Krystal, you're a Miss Entrepreneur, which is so you. So where do you go when you need that inspiration as an entrepreneur?
Where do you pull from? How do you feel, ladies?
So I'll share. So DC has, I think, one of the strongest Black women entrepreneur communities. And so once you decide to take that step, there's so many people that will surround you. Like when I quit my job back in 2018, I had no clue what I was doing. There was an organization, it used to be called 1863, it's not called that anymore, think they're called New Majority Ventures, but they had an incubator that was completely free. And they'll teach you the basics of like a pitch deck and, you know, doing your financials and all of those things. But there is a really, really strong community here. So I just invite folks who are interested to reach out, because we really love taking new entrepreneurs in.
Oh, that's beautiful. How do you feel, Lonye?
First, I'll also piggyback off the resources. Is, you know, for on the government side, and even for any small business, DC has DC PTAC, DC Apex, that you can, and then the SBA office is here. So when you all talk about mentors, there's actually people that are paid to actually be your paid mentor that the government spends money on. So you go to those places like Apex, they'll
Hold
teach
on,
you how
I want to
do.
simmer in that, because that not a lot of people know that.
No.
That there are actually people who are on payroll to support you in your journey in needing mentorship. I think that's
and
a
you
real
hold them
big bar.
accountable. When Arlene and I first started, I told y'all we didn't know anything. And so we went to those offices. That was a long time ago. The internet is not even how it was then. And so we would go and look at people's signature block. It's like, you are supposed to help me. We would go up there and be like, is Sheila Edmondson here? Right? And we did this literally, and to the point that we start irritating them. They started inviting us to things and matchmaking. And 10 years later, we SBA Persons of the Year. Right? And so when they started us with zero, right?
Yeah.
So when we were going there, we were trying to get funding. This year, we're going to close at $45 million. So
let's go.
From all those free resources and those things. So I think from an inspiration standpoint, you have to have a very strong, like, why are you doing this? Right? You have to pull your inspiration from you. Right? You cannot let some external thing control your destiny. You pull your inspiration from you. You meditate. You think about you, where you want to be. You think about the legacy that you're leaving for your kids. You think about being able to take care of your parents. You thinking about being able to pour into your community. And when you think about that, you're not going to say, I'll forget my community.
Yeah.
That's going to inspire you to keep moving, but you're going to be responsible for that.
How you feel, Krystal?
I love how she ended that, because that was going to be my answer. When I was literally sitting here thinking that, I'm like, I would love to tell y'all that I look to the left and the right, and I have like these people that I look at online and I know about, but I don't.
Exactly.
Yeah, I really don't. Like, I don't. So most of my inspiration is pulled from myself, is my conversations with God and what I feel like He's shown me. And if anything, like when you start building, you can go back, like I said, not just the receipts, but I go back and I do read comments. I go back and I read letters that people have written me about how, like, what I've done impacted their journeys. I go back and I just look at that stuff, because the moment I want to quit, I'm just like, somebody needs this. Like, you know, and then that person, like, y'all, stuff really be happening. When you really want to quit, God will send those people to just put that little bug in your ear. Like, oh, you remember this? I'll be like, dang, like, there's people in this room today, like, that hugged me. And it was like, I really came here to support you, and I haven't seen them in years. Yeah. But those be the same moments that you be like, people don't forget how you treat them. They don't forget the impact that you had on their life. And so for me, I pull inspiration from people whose lives I feel like I've actually had an impact in. Like,
see, and that's amazing. Do I have any other questions? Oh, we got a couple. I knew you guys would love this panel.
Thank you. So my name is Brandy Woods, and
Hi.
How are you?
Hey, Brandy.
Hey. I am a newer entrepreneur in this particular line of work. I am a life coach, and I offer life coaching services, particularly for some of them tailored for our communities particularly. My question is, but before I ask my question, I want to thank you all for sharing your wisdom and being the igniters for women that are up and coming in business. So thank you so very much for taking the time to share. I want to know, I'm supporting my business by hiring business coaches and advisors to support me on my walk. What about when you have a really fiery idea and maybe some of your consultants are saying it's not time yet? How do you trust yourself, or do you trust I mean, they are the experts. They're who are hired, but I know my business as well. So I'd like to know, what would you do in that situation?
I love this question. Who wants to start?
I mean, I just would trust myself.
Come on, Krystal.
Like if
That's where I was going with it.
Yeah, because if God has already validated you in private, then you know when it's time to launch that thing.
Let's go.
So if you've had the vision, you got the plan written, and you know when it's time to launch that thing. It's not for anybody else to tell you. Yeah, it's not for anybody else to tell you, like, okay, now is the time, because they don't know like you know. So not saying FEO consultants. I'm not saying that. I'm just simply saying,
or maybe.
Yeah, maybe a little bit, but slightly. You got to be able to. The boss in you, the entrepreneur in you, has to be able to say, no, I think it's right now, and you gotta make a decision and stand on it.
Yeah. I would agree with that. A couple of things. I would think, one, listen to why they said that, right? There may be some real, true reasons or some things that you need to do, right? Mm-hmm. You still need to make sure when you start in a business that you're fully informed, that you're doing research. Not that you have to have all the answers, but you know enough to kind of get started. So making sure that you're out of that infancy stage, right? And it's going to make sense. But you also have to think about when you're going to, who are you consulting with? I see a lot of people, even on internet, IG, they're teaching all these things that they've never done.
No, that's true.
That's a whole panel discussion in itself.
Yes.
Because everybody is an expert.
Yes.
Everybody's an expert.
So I will also just caution against getting a consultant who has never done exactly what you do from the exact angle that you're in, because they're not going to understand. Yeah. So you have to get someone, be very conscious of who you consult with, and then consult with winners. Y'all be talking to people that ain't even winning and listening to what they telling y'all.
And when she say consult with winners, like actually know they're winners, not because they
know they're winners.
Yeah, because you can make anything look good.
Oh, you can dress it up
you
real
can dress
good
it up
on social media.
But know how they come in real life.
And it's a lot of dressing up around here. So just make sure that y'all are consulting with winners, because winners have a mind frame. They're going to tell you something different than someone that's not a risk taker. So I just think you have to be careful with that. But yeah, just do it.
It's true. Do I have any other questions? All right. So sorry.
Thank you, ladies. As an entrepreneur, how do you balance family, yourself, and even work life? Like, how do you balance that out?
Who's talking? Where you at, girl?
I'm a first best-selling author, and I'm also an entrepreneur myself.
What's your name?
My name's Tanisha Murden.
Hey, Tanisha.
Hi, Tanisha. Queens.
Hey, Tanisha.
Hey.
Did you want to take that question?
Yeah, I'll start because I just had a baby 15 months ago, and
congrats to motherhood.
Thank you. And it rocked my world as an entrepreneur, because when I started, I was 31. This like all out in the scene all the time. It was completely different, right, than now having a child. So I think that in terms of like balancing family and life and entrepreneurship, like each person's journey is going to be very, very individual, and it's going to depend on like where you are, right, in that time of your journey. Are you at a place where you can outsource things? Do you have the money to do that? Do you have a team, right?
Yeah.
Is this a time where you have to focus on your family? Is it a time where you can just pour more time into your business? I think going back to what I said though at the beginning is that like, if you are going full time, it has to be very clear that you have to make every dollar that you're gonna have, right? So if you are making that decision, going into it saying, okay, I know that I'm gonna have to provide for myself, I'm gonna have to provide for my family, so what do I need to do before I take that step to do that? Because once you're in it, there's no like, no one's coming to save you.
Nobody.
So that's all I say, is that like sometimes you're working way longer. Even with my baby, I took 1 month of paternity leave. I never thought I would take 1 month of paternity leave, but that's what I had to do because the business was busy at the time. We were raising money, right? So it's going into it knowing that that balance that you may crave, like just may not be there sometimes. And sometimes it will, but just being ready for it, no matter what.
I think that's important. Understanding that sometimes you won't have the time where it will feel evenly balanced. But I think what's important too, just to kind of piggyback off of what you said, and I'm sure that the panelists here can also agree, is that balance is not always this.
Yes.
It's not linear. Sometimes balance is this is real, and this is because you do have the capacity to let one thing go to let another other thing. How do you guys feel about that?
Absolutely. Entrepreneurship is definitely not about balance. Harmony, it's going to all work together and play some beautiful music, but it's not necessarily balanced. And I think that you have to give yourself grace on that. It might be a week or two where it's like, wow, I didn't spend that much time with my kids. But then I realize this next week, I'm going to be pouring into them. And your kids will understand too. So I think knowing that it's going to be times that I really need to focus on my child right now. So I'm going to have to let this kind of slide to the side. Yeah. So you're going to have to learn how to navigate those waters because, as April was saying, it is you are the responsible person. You're bringing in the dollar, right? So you're going to still have to, you're going to have to navigate, and that's going to be of the utmost importance because that's what's providing the physical security for you and your kids. So there is going to be some negotiation there.
Mm-hmm. All right. I think that makes perfect sense. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
I was just going to speak from the lens of, not having a family and no kids. Because I even think I just want to shout out my friends because they really make me take the time to do something different. I'm very much so the entrepreneur that's up in the middle of the night. I send emails at 4 a.m. I've learned how to schedule them now because you don't want to disturb people's peace. But
oh yes,
yeah,
I've been told.
Yeah, I know because you're the boss, so people's like, oh, the boss sent me email at 4 o'clock, I gotta respond. So I schedule emails now. But I just want to say, be intentional about the spaces that you show up because you do need that time for yourself and you do need those moments to decompress, but where are you spending that time? And so I'm thankful for my friends because I get to show up to things that I feel like still make me be like, oh, I love what I'm doing and I still feel inspired. I don't feel like I got to come home and I'm just like, oh my God, that drained me. Why did I go? Just being intentional about the spaces that I'm showing up in when I do have that little bit of time because your time matters and it's important. So how you serve it also matters.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that was a wonderful conversation. I'm so happy that we were able to get some questions from the audience and that you guys were able to answer a lot. And I'm hoping that you guys got value from that. Absolutely. So before I let you guys go, can you guys just plug your social media, where people can find you? And I know that you guys will probably mingle a little bit after you guys leave the stage, and you guys are welcome to speak with them if they have the time. You want to start, Krystal, with your social media?
Yes, my name's right there, but just put I am in front of that. So I am Krystal Carter, Krystal on all platforms.
Absolutely. What about you, Lonye?
Lonye Ford, and you can find me on LinkedIn, just Lonye Ford. I do most things on LinkedIn. And shout out to y'all entrepreneurs. Y'all going to change the world.
Absolutely.
And we appreciate y'all pouring into yourselves.
Absolutely. And April?
Yeah, so also on LinkedIn, Happied. If you have a company that's doing a corporate team offsite, retreat, sales kickoff, talk to us.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, ladies. I just want to thank you again, the panelists, just for, number one, offering your assistance with, letting people know that they can talk to you or come to you or reach out to you if they have questions. And I hope you guys enjoyed this panel, and we'll be back for the next panel. Thanks so much.